General Naravane, when China tried to alter the status of the line of actual control, this was on in May 2020. At that time, you were the army chief. Tell us what happened then. And the subsequent months, because the tension continued, the aggression continued for several months. And what was the situation then, and how did you deal with it?
Well, you see, China has been trying to alter the status quo along the LAC for many years and decades, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been doing this in very small, incremental steps, which by themselves do not look very dangerous. They actually look quite innocuous. What we call salami slicing, coming up 1 inch at a time. But in the bargain, over a period of time, they have gained a lot. And this is the tactics that they have adopted and were continuing to do. But there was a time to say this much and no further. So that is what actually happened as they kept trying to probe, especially north of the Pangangso, when they were trying to probe and come closer and closer in these areas of differing perception. They come time and again, and then they try to make that the historical fact. That we've always been coming here. So they try to alter the status quo as it is existing.
When you say come, what does that mean? When they come and they don't leave, you mean? They stay?
Sometimes that is what we contest. That is precisely what happens in these areas where we have different perceptions. We also patrol up to our perception line. They come up to their perception line. But while this is happening, if the patrols come face to face at the same time, then obviously there is a chance of a skirmish or a clash happening.
So what happened in 2020? Did we not have the intel that they have come and they're not leaving?
No, it's not that they came and were not leaving. They were continuously patrolling up to where they thought that they should be coming, but they were not allowing us to go where we ought to go. Therefore, we had to be more assertive and push them back. And that is where the clashes occurred, whether it is on north bank of Pangangso or whether it is in PP15, where of course those unfortunate casualties took place.
The PP15 means the Galwan Valley.
The Galwan Valley, that's right.
So what happened in Galwan, sir?
As I said, we have been always patrolling up to PP15, but they were trying to stop us from going to a traditional patrolling point. And that was totally unacceptable to us. And to stop us from coming, they had established a small outpost, you can say, just 2 tents. And we objected very vehemently to that. But
This was in May 2020?
It was ongoing.
Ongoing,
It was going on. So we objected vehemently to that, but they were adamant that they would not go back. And therefore we had to be more assertive. And that is when they also came with additional strength, and the entire clash happened in that area of means on our side of PP15, but as a result we were able to make sure that they go back.
So when you say we were assertive, we were vehement, what does that translate to actually?
Yeah, so you see, over the years there have been many protocols which have been laid down, whether it is on Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement, the BPTA, or protocol on confidence building measures. So in all of them, there are various provisions to make sure that such clashes do not occur. For example, if 2 patrols come to face, they have to stop wherever we first see each other. And then only the leaders come up along with one buddy and negotiate at that point, and then they go back. You're not supposed to come close together. The strength of the patrols have been laid down. So that obviously if both sides are of equal strength, the chances of a clash are less. But if one side is 500 and the other side is 15, then obviously the side which is 500 feels emboldened. So over a period of time, they were violating one by one all the provisions of those agreements. So at some point, we had also to counter them. If they were violating, then obviously we had to take countermeasures. That is what I mean by we were more assertive and not taking things lying down.
See, as per the timeline which we have, I mean, there are various timelines to this because nobody is quite sure. But in May, China transgresses in 2020. In August, India accuses China of provoking, and then subsequently several transgressions happen. And as you said, we protest, we object. Then India accuses China of provoking military tensions twice in August. China denies, blames India for standoff. In September, China accuses India of firing shots at its troops. And then exchange of fire, first time in 45 years, happened. Now, you're the army chief at that time. What was going on in your mind? Because were you then at that time, because you've said several times that you have to be prepared for war. As an army chief, you have to prepare your troops for war. So were you prepared for war at that stage with China?
See, the transgressions are not actually localized to only Eastern Ladakh. We have areas of different perceptions right from Eastern Ladakh to Arunachal. And these transgressions are happening from time to time in various places. In Eastern Ladakh, in the central sector, Barahoti, in Sikkim, in Arunachal. So this is something that we are always prepared to counter. But as I said, the various agreements which are in place categorically rule out the use of force or resorting to firing. But you cannot only observe one paragraph of the agreement and violate all others. So if you have violated all the others, then I am free to fire. So you cannot accuse me of firing when you have done all the violations. Does that mean you will come with 5,000 people and I will just keep sitting? Obviously I will fire. And that is what they were scared of. And that is the moment we opened fire, they realized that they made a mistake and the whole gamut of this border agreement has gone to a different level altogether. And that is what imposed caution on them. For the first time ever, they were cautious that this tactics or this strategy of theirs of trying to overwhelm by superior force will not work in the face of
India retaliating
or opening fire.
Right. For the benefit of our listeners and viewers, one second, Ajit, I'm just going to come to you. I'll just, because there are many instances when we talk about it, but, as journalists, you and I might understand. But if there is a student, for example, or somebody sitting outside of India who may not be aware of the complexity of this, just a small explainer, if you don't understand the boundary engagement that India has with China, there's just a small explainer that in 1993 an agreement was signed between India and China, that neither side will use or threaten to use force against each other by any means. No activities of either side shall overstep the line of control. And in case personnel of one side cross the line of actual control, remember it's line of actual control, LAC, as opposed to LOC, which is on our western front. Now, on LAC, in case the personnel of one side actually cross, as General Saab was explaining, then, like for example, if China crosses or somebody from China crosses, then the Indian side shall warn them, caution them, and say that you have crossed. So once that caution happens, but more relevant part about this agreement is that neither side shall open fire or hunt with guns and explosives within 2 kilometers from the line of actual control. Now, the line of actual control is also kind of not defined in many places, so that's where all the trouble also occurs. So it brings me to the initial question I had, General Saab, that there was this agreement and then there was this aggression and they were pushing us. This was, now you are the army chief. So what happens then?
This was precisely the agreement I was referring to,
Sir.
The 1993 one, where it specifically mentioned that there will be no unilateral change of the status quo. You will not come with weapons, you will not come with arms. But if you are now coming with clubs studded with barbed wire, what does that mean? You violated the agreement.
It was the first time that this club with wires happened?
So they have been doing that earlier. So as I said, they have been continuously violating the agreement.
Okay.
Now if you have violated half the agreement, that doesn't mean that we'll just keep listening and चुपचाप तो नहीं बैठे रहेंगे. हमने भी कुछ करना है और करेंगे. और वही किया हमने.
The nature of the enemy has been similar, persistent, or was it altering we saw in the 2000s?
No, they have, their long-term strategy has always been the same, to keep inching forward and keep probing us for any possible weakness. And if there is a weakness,
Okay.
then come and sit there and then always say that this is how it always was. So therefore, every small probing action has to be contested
In that.
in that
Ajit,
light.
you had a question.
Sir, you said that the Chinese were violating the agreement by bringing in large number of troops, armed and all. So this prior to May 2020 aggression which they did and the story came out, how big were the numbers? How did they manage to bring in so many troops so close to our border? We have heard there was an exercise, they diverted troops from there. But how did we know that this is happening?
No, see, whenever patrolling is going on, we always come to know that the patrols are there and are coming. And we just mentioned about Yangtse at the beginning of the talk. So when they're assembling, we do come to know that they're assembling. So it's not that you're taken entirely by surprise. But the fact is that we don't expect them to violate an agreement. So it is an agreement that is being violated time and again. So that is the point to note, that if you are violating the agreement, then we reserve the right to take any action that we deem fit.
So this agreement was signed, decades ago. But how do you, as an army chief, tell your men to defend a hot border with no weapons? How are you going to instill in your men and women now that confidence to? There's a hot border. You have an enemy which is coming at you. How do you defend it?
So I will like to clarify, when you say no weapons, we carry weapons. It is not that weapons are not carried. But that is where our men have to exercise great restraint, that in the face of provocation not to fire, because we are, as gentlemen, following the agreement. But when the enemy or when the PLA was violating these agreements, then we also told them that if they are violating, then you are free to take whatever actions you want to take in your self-defense.
What is the weapon that that is carried, if I may ask, and where is it carried? Is it carried on the body of the soldier who's there,
Yes,
or
yes.
is
When
it
you go for a patrol, you go totally armed and expecting the worst.
and a firearm?
Yes, a firearm. You carry your rifles, you carry your light machine guns, you carry your ammunition. You are ready to meet any eventuality. It's not that you'd go patrolling with just dandas in your hand. Not that.
Okay.
So there was somewhere it came that the Indian troops were unarmed. I'm sorry, that is not a correct statement which came or report which came at that point. Every patrol which goes ready to meet any eventuality. They're armed as per the laid down scales and as per the patrol that they're going for, and they were equipped also accordingly. If their patrol has to cross some water obstacle, they will be carrying their expedients to cross that water obstacle or that river or nala. They just don't go as if they're going for a picnic.
Right. So it's a little hard for us to understand that that an Indian soldier is carrying a weapon. He sees his unit chief being killed and doesn't use his weapon. That is why there was this outrage that how. Why?
Yeah, so although we did not fire, we also resorted in a similar vein. So you see that it was always a question of who will open fire first. So since we felt that we had the measure of the PLA troops over there, we also countered them in the same way that they were sort of taking action against us, which was basically by the use of non-lethal, that means not actually firing, although casualties did occur by other things that, so if they were carrying sticks, then we were also carrying sticks.
And sir, we have, after the first instance where they used the barbed wire clubs and all these things, we have also now started using the such sticks with spikes and all.
See, we would still like to maintain that we are a 21st century army. to start going back to clubs and barbed wires is going back to prehistoric times. I think it is a very regressive way of going. We would
Because
still like to maintain that we, you know, in warfare also there are certain rules. It is not that you just do whatever that you want to do.
Right.
So we would still like to maintain a professional stance, and therefore rather than resort to wielding clubs, we'll rather open fire. That is how our army fights,
Correct.
by using the weapons at their disposal and not getting into fisticuffs.
Is there any other parallel in the world where two armies or two neighbors have decided that we will use these clubs and monkey, what is it called? Monkey web, something it is called.
So that is precisely what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Are we hooligans? Are we mafia? Or are we a professional army? Is that the level that PLA has gone down to?
Yeah.
Hooliganism and street fighting? Or are they a professional 21st century army? On one side, they try to show their technological prowess. On the other side, they're coming with barbed wire clubs. It is ridiculous.
so, sir,
हमने भी तो किया।
did you laugh at them when they were wielding mace and
Yes,
those
yes,
bhalas?
of course, it is so regressive. There's no other word for it.
Yeah. But, Jain Sahab, 15 June 2020, you get information, or at least we got information, that Colonel Santosh Babu and his men died in action. You might have got it a couple of hours before we did. What went through your mind at that stage?
See, any casualty, of course, hurts you. You're as the chief, not only as the chief, as a battalion commander, as a brigade commander. Every man is your man. He is your son or daughter. So any such information or news that comes, obviously you feel a little saddened by this kind. But on the other hand, you also feel that yes, what they have done is in the line of duty, and they have certainly given as good as they got. And that is actually the fact, whether the PLA admits it or not, or whether the Chinese admit it or not. They also gave it back to the enemy. And of course, in any such clash or battle or war, casualties will happen on either side. That's part of the game, if I can say so.
So, but there was also that situation where we had to literally force them to give back the bodies, and we had to give from our side we had to give. What happens there in that situation at that stage? Is there a negotiation which happens that return the bodies of our men who have died, and then we have to give? How does that happen there, sir?
Of course, once the clash has happened and temperatures have cooled down, both literally and in actual fact, then the saner counsel, of course, prevails. The clash is always in the heat of the moment. And later on, when flag meetings were held...
Between DGMOs?
No, between and on the ground.
On the ground.
On the ground, flag meetings were held. We, of course, facilitated the flag meeting through our official channels, including the diplomatic channels. And on ground, the flag meetings were held at the place where the clashes occurred. And that is where then our men came back, were returned to us.
So we will interrupt with what the defense minister said. So his speech in Lok Sabha is just running, and some of the pointers are that on December 9th in Yangtse area of Tawang sector, PLA troops encroached upon and attempted to change the status quo. The attempt by PLA to encroachment was tackled by our troops in a determined manner. Our troops bravely stopped the PLA from encroaching upon our territory and forced them to go back to their post. The defense minister said in Lok Sabha that the matter has also been taken up with China through diplomatic channels. As you were mentioning, Jain Sahab, that this happened earlier too. Raksha Mantri then said that he would assure the House that our forces are committed to guard our borders and ready to thwart any attempt that will be made to challenge it. In the face of few soldiers on both sides suffered injuries. Raksha Mantri said that he'd like to tell the House that none of our soldiers died or suffered any serious injury. Due to the timely intervention of Indian military commanders, PLA soldiers have retreated to their own locations. flag meeting was held with the Chinese counterpart, and the Raksha Mantri said that the Chinese side was refused all actions and told to maintain peace at the border. It's I don't know
Maybe
this
has
has refused. Okay.
or maybe they're not accepting that they've done it.
Okay.
Maybe trying to imply that.
Right. So, Jain sir, this what we have heard through sources is that isn't that I think Ajit also will say this, that it's happened before. I mean earlier this year. This is 2022. It's happened on a couple of occasions where the Chinese side has tried to come in. This was probably a larger incident, which has come to light. Could you tell us whether it is similar to what happened in 2020?
Similar in Yangtse?
In Yangtse?
Yeah. Yes, it is. In fact, Yangtse is one area where the Chinese keep trying to come over across the river into the Yangtse sector. And this is not only of 2020, they try to come every year. And every year they make 2-3 such attempts to come, and they're rebuffed every time.
Okay.
Of course, from their side also they must be having some pressure from their senior commanders that how is it that you come back every time, or kuch karo, press
Kuch
on
karke
more,
dikhao.
kuch karke dikhao.
Kuch karke dikhao would mean that
Either
either
crossover.
casualties or get more land. Is that because it's a country which is hungry for land all the time. Even though they're such a large country, they're greedy to capture
land.
more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is why their commanders would be pressing their people also that at least go up to our stated claim line, but we do not allow them to come even up to there. And they have to cross a river to come to our side, and that is where we block them. And we are on a tactically advantageous position, so it's well nigh impossible for them to come. But yet year after year they keep attempting the same thing, and year after year they suffer injuries and go back. Of course, in the bargain we also suffer some injuries, but they have always been at the receiving end. And they make 2-3 such attempts every year, and the last one is normally before the onset of winters. So, and before the snows come, and then all such tactical actions would thereafter not be possible. So we expect this every year, and we were very well prepared to thwart it.
It used to happen in the western sector too, in Siachen, till an operation happened and they were evicted out, and they learnt their lesson and said, "Ab nahi," because we didn't move out from there. Is it similar in what happened in Siachen and what's happening in Galwan and what's happening in Yangtse area?
I think to an extent, because of the stand we have taken, and because we have now made it very clear that this unilateral changes will not be tolerated by us. So by and by, I think it will dawn on them that there is no point in escalating the situation all the time. And it would be better to move towards a permanent solution to this border problem rather than keep this friction alive. And as our foreign minister has said, as long as the border question is resolved, it cannot be business as usual.
Right.
So I think over a period of time, this realization will dawn on them that it is better to have a stable and peaceful border rather than continuing to have such small incidents every now and then, which is, it becomes a setback to our overall relations. So
Do you think it's dawning? I mean, you've attended several meetings with them. Do you think that they are receptive? It's an army which is receptive to change, or it's not?
I would not say the army receptive to change. It has to be the political establishment which has to be receptive to change and should realize that if they really want peace and tranquility in the region, if they want China and India to re-emerge as the geopolitical and the economic hub that we were in the 18th century. In the 18th century, it was China and India which contributed 80% of the world's GDP. So if we want to regain that position in the future, then it would be better if China and India are friends rather than having this competition and confrontation every now and then.
Sir, I would like to take you back to the Galwan issue. You said the Chinese had put up tents, and we opposed that vehemently. And during Galwan, when we took action, those tents have been now pushed back.
Yes.
And we did it successfully. The team led by Colonel Santosh Babu and his men, they pushed back the Chinese from that position where they had pitched their tents.
It was not so clear cut as it seems now. So there was a period when they tried to push them back. They were still there. And then as a result of the talks which happened thereafter, and 10-15 rounds of talks took place. And then in every round of talks, we agreed to disengage from where we were. And as a result of that disengagement, now the status quo has been restored.
In all the locations, sir?
In all the locations, yeah.
So, and can we say that the status quo which the Chinese wanted to change unilaterally post 2020, from May 2020, we have gone back to the older positions after the several round of talks which we have had.
That's right. So post the several rounds of talks, the status quo as of April 2020 has been restored.